Hello, I'm Robin Vincent. It's April, we've just had Musikmesse, which must mean it's time for another Molten Music Monthly. So, are you loving the new ident thingy then? Well, I don't know, we're just going to sort of play with it a bit, so expect it to change and evolve and do all sorts of strange things over the next few videos. I've also picked up some new lights, so our next few videos are going to be sort of a washed out mess. So that'll be fun, and all in the pursuit of providing quality content for you good people. So, Musikmesse then, it's sort of Europe's smaller cousin of NAMM, held in Frankfurt every year. Usually they're pretty good, full of sort of quirky European technology and beeping noises and swirlies and flashing lights and stuff all patched together in a beep beep beep, along with sort of trombones and accordions and stuff like that. But this year it was a little bit light on the quirky coolness, because the week before in Berlin they had what they call Super Booth, which is kind of a new show where all of the electronic music, all of the analog modular gear, synths and craziness all come together, which sounds like a fabulous thing, but it kind of stole everybody from Musikmesse because most of them couldn't be asked to do the both. Nonetheless, I scoured the media streams to pull out some computer music peaches to show you good people. We've got MOTU getting Thunderbolt to work on Windows. We've got RME releasing 4 new products. IK Multimedia release a sensibly sized orchestral library. UAD give us a USB satellite box that doesn't even do Sky. Brainworx does some EQ in the stereo field. There's cool spacey plugins from Zynaptiq. Antelope get all contemplative with the Zen Tour audio interface. And we round things off with some banging beats from PioneerDJ TORAIZ SP-16 groovebox thing. So if you've never heard any of that, good, you're in the right place. Come with me and let's check them out. MOTU have been consistently good to Windows users over the years. I mean, we're not their first thought when they get up in the morning, but you know, by the time they've had some coffee, then they get to thinking about us. And they have this fabulous range of Thunderbolt and USB audio interfaces, which up until now have only been available on USB for Windows users. Well, now they've released an updated version of the driver which includes full Thunderbolt compatibility. And this effectively doubles the channel count and halves the latency. Well, that's pretty darn cool. Thank you, MOTU. RME, on the other hand, are the masters of the Windows audio interface, and to celebrate their 20 years making really complex German boxes, they've released 4 new ones for us to get our teeth into. Firstly, there's the Babyface Pro, which isn't anywhere near as cutely named as the Babyface Pro, and it doesn't really roll off the tongue either for that matter, but I don't actually know anyone who uses MADI. It's some kind of 64-channel digital connection, I think. Anyway, so they've got a new one that's called the Babyface Pro. Awesome. I'm sure it's very exciting. Next is the stupendous Fireface UFX Plus, which supports both USB and Thunderbolt and is capable of up to 188 I/O. That's a lot of stuff going in and out. And you don't even need a computer. You can plug in like a USB thumb drive and record 76 channels directly to it without turning your PC on. They do really need to drop the Fireface name though, I think, because that was all based on the fact that the original Fireface was a Firewire interface, but Firewire is kind of long dead now, so they kind of need to evolve. Maybe just call it the UFX. I mean, how hard would that be? Next we have the Arc USB, or the Advanced Remote Control, which is a Babyface looking desktop device for controlling the Total Mix Effects software that you get with RME products. Now, I hate the Total Mix Effects software. It just drives me bonkers. I could just never get any sound out. I don't, it's just, oh, the scales come down, I can't. I don't know, but obviously lots of people use it and like it, and anything which is going to make it easier, more accessible and more tactile to use, then that's got to be a good thing. It's designed with the UFX Plus in mind, so it's an ideal companion for that, but should work with any box that has the loathsome Total Mix FX thing. Finally, something called the ADI2 Pro, which is some kind of format audio converter stroke headphone amp or something. RME stuff always works brilliantly, so if you can afford it, it should always be on your shortlist. So happy birthday, RME. Keep doing what you're doing, and thank you for all of the complex boxes of awesomeness. I love the Miroslav library. I love it. It's awesome. It's the best sounding orchestral library I think there's ever been. I remember demoing it on Akai samplers from a floppy disk back in the day, or did I dream that? About a decade ago, IK Multimedia got together with Miroslav and put together this orchestral pack called the Miroslav Philharmonic. And it was a great virtual instruments. I mean, it's been around for ages. I would always use it on everything. It has this sort of sound, this feel to it. I mean, some would say soul, perhaps. I don't know, it's very difficult to measure, but apparently it's to do with the fact that when sampling all the instruments, Miroslav didn't just sort of sample the sound of a violin, he sampled the performance. He got out of the musicians some kind of emotive and emotional performance, which was then sampled as part of the instrument. Does that sound plausible? I suppose. But in the end, you get this orchestral sample instrument which just has some kind of feel to it, which many others don't. Very difficult to quantify. Anyway, they've got back together again and produced a whole new library, 58 gigabytes worth, 2,700 instruments. I mean, that's just crazy. And have released the Miroslav Philharmonic Tour. However, if like me, you just want a little bit of decent strings, then sort of 58 gigs and 2,700 instruments just feels a bit like overkill. Now IK have cottoned onto this and have just released a classic edition, which is a cut down, filtered down, much more manageable sized orchestral library that's 10 gigs with 700 odd instruments, which perhaps I think I could probably cope with. It's only $99 and I think it's probably enough for most people, so I would really recommend getting hold of that if you're in the market for a bit of stringy, orchestral, luscious and emotive sounding sounds. My only criticism, which is the same for all of IK products really, is that their interface is just a little bit weeny, a bit tiny. Some of the text, some of the buttons are just annoyingly small. Other than that, I love it. Universal Audio are not always big on the whole Windows thing, and so it's really nice to see them come up with a product for us. The UAD 2 satellite USB is a really boring looking box for running their suite of DSP powered plugins. I mean, couldn't they put some flashing lights on it or something? I don't know. Anyway, it's available in 4 or 8 Shark processor models and costs about $1,000. And then of course you've got to add in the price of a bunch of plugins as well. So it's exciting, but it's not a cheap venture. But working over USB 3 gives it an extraordinarily low latency, high data throughput, and it's a really cool thing to finally have an external box of UAD plugins available to us Windows users. Hurrah! I love terms like game changer. It sort of massages my cynicism gland rather nicely. But Brainworx do seem to have gotten onto something a little bit new and exciting with their annoyingly named BX_pan EQ. The idea is that it allows you to place different EQs in the stereo field. So a little bit of boost over here on the left, some drop over here in the mid on the right, something over here, move this one from over here to over here. I think you get the picture. Could we do that before? No, apparently we couldn't do that before. I mean, generally speaking, I kind of do all my processing, all of my EQ before I hit the pan knob, you know, before I place it in the stereo field. So I'm still trying to really work out exactly why this is a useful thing to do, why you haven't done this before. Maybe it's just to play with mix sound, I don't know. But at the same time, it would be certainly interesting to slap a filter in somewhere and then move it around in the panorama. I can see that being creative and cool. But there are loads of talking heads of top producers on their video about it going, oh wow, this is amazing. So it's probably amazing. It's just another one of those things I never knew that I needed. However, it's new and it's a thing, and I'm here to talk about things, so there you go. Now these look awesome. I love the GUI, the whole Tron thing. It's just fantastic. What they sound like, who knows, but it just looks Amazing. So yeah, I'm going to get me one of those, or two of those. There's two new plugins from Zynaptiq. The first one is called Adaptiverb, and it uses artificial intelligence to model reverbs through the use of ray tracing and adaptive similarity, rather than the old business of using reflections and impulses. They say it's a similar technology to that found in driverless cars. No, I've got no idea how that does anything to do with reverb. Anyway, the key feature is it allows you to place things in space without pushing them away like you do a traditional reverb. The more reverb you add, the further away something appears. But apparently this doesn't do that. But that does sound pretty interesting. The second one is called Wormhole, which, and I'm probably going to need to read this, Wormhole combines an eccentric spectral warping section with a lush reverb and a precision engineered processor that integrates pitch and frequency shifting into a single process. Apparently it makes spaceship noises. We'll wait and see. Antelope make really posh and expensive bits of gear. Their new Zen Tour is an attempt at kind of a portable, desktop-friendly audio interface that is good for anyone. But they decided to keep all of the posh features, and so it will make your $1,500 poorer. But the feature set is awesome. It's got 4 mic line inputs, it's got 4 instrument line inputs, it's got 8 outputs, it's got tons of digital in, out all the time. It's got these reamp outputs, which allows you to run sort of a guitar signal back out through a loop of guitar effects, which is, I don't think I've ever come across that before. That's very exciting. It's got a Thunderbolt connection and a USB connection. It has an onboard DSP for running a whole bunch of their own vintage effects and guitar effects, which are all free and bundled in with it, no additional cost for the plugins. It's got a fabulous display on the front, a nice big fat knob, and as you know, I'm a bit partial to the desktop form factor, so for me, if I had that sort of money knocking around, then it would be the perfect audio interface for the sort of things that I do. They did release some other posh stuff as well, but I'm just not really that interested. And finally, an unholy alliance between PioneerDJ and synth legend Dave Smith. Didn't see this one coming. The TORAIZ SP-16 is a banging box of beats and samples, loops and flashing lights and all sorts of stuff, and then slapped in there is a couple of analog filters from the Prophet 6. Just bonkers. It has a 16-track sequencer, 16 steps, 16 voices, 2 gigs worth of Loop Master sample library, all stuffed in there. You can add more things, you can pull it in and out. It's just a whole lot of fun to play with. I mean, honestly, groove boxes always are a lot of fun to play with. To focus it at the DJ, it also has the Pioneer Pro DJ link thing, which allows it to sync up to your digital DJ rig and run it along with whatever tracks you're spinning, dropping, hitting, clicking. I don't know what's the lingo these days for non-record record playing. Anyway, at £1,275, the price just seems bonkers. It's just completely out there. I mean, that's 5 times, 6 times the price of the Novation Circuit, 4 times the price of the Roland TR8, and sort of 3 times the price of the Native Instruments Machine 2. I mean, what the hell is in this thing to make it so expensive? Oh, the Dave Smith filters, of course. Yeah, that must be it. But anyway, I just kind of expected it to be like $299, $349, something like that. So that's a surprise. But DJs are all making loads of money these days, so they'll snap them up. I'm sure they'll have 3 sorted out around their very expensive stuff. Bringing back Film of the Month, because I just like it. Controversially, I wanted to big up Batman vs Superman. Yeah, I know, I think it's only me that likes it, but I thought it was awesome. I thought it was amazing. What I think is the trouble that people have is that they kind of went to the film expecting this big sort of rock concert of an event, when actually it was more like an opera. It was more like a symphony. It was a different thing. It wasn't a fun film. It wasn't a Marvel film. This was dark and brooding, and I loved the disaster of these characters. I loved the drunken, womanizing Batman who's trying to drag himself back from the edge of whatever precipice he's found himself upon. I thought that was brilliant. I love Superman's self-doubt and wondering what the heck is he doing and why is he doing that. And all of the interplay was, I thought, most enjoyable in terms of, it was a good film. I liked it, I really liked it. I'm sorry, you can slag me off in the comments by all means. But the main reason for mentioning it is because the music and sound design in it was phenomenal. Now, I can't stand Hans Zimmer. I just can't get on with it at all. I'm just so bored of the continual sort of replaying of Zimmer's themes, which are just the kind of just variations on the same thing over and over again. All the business with using 10 drum kits to create a bit of drumming for Man of Steel. Anyway, I won't go down. I did a whole video on superhero music. You can find it in the channel. But suffice to say that he was awesome. He did an awesome job of introducing Wonder Woman. When her theme kicked in, when Wonder Woman was revealed, it was just a fantastic, uplifting moment. The best use of cinema music by him in a long time. But it wasn't really him. It was this other guy. It was Junkie XL. Junkie XL? Is that what he calls himself? Yeah, Tom Holkenborg. Tom Holkenborg. Yes, I mean, he's responsible for the soundtracks to Deadpool and to Mad Max Fury Road, for heaven's sake. But there were bits in there that were just extraordinary. There was kind of like this screaming sound that was just enveloping the entire cinema as just be leading up to Batman crashing through the wall and beating up a bunch of bad guys in like an Arkham Asylum style. And that sound was terrifying. It just kind of brought that whole thing in just brilliantly. And there were other moments of extraordinary musical motifs and sound design and just weirdness that was immediately not Zimmer and was immediately recognizable as somebody else. I didn't know who at the time when I went to see the movie, but it was phenomenal just for that. And I personally cannot wait to see it again. Affleck was awesome. I thought Wonder Woman was awesome. Everybody had, you know, a really good go at it. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. So there, haha, internet. So, Surface Pro 4, people keep asking me about the Surface Pro 4. Yes, well, I don't yet want to get into all the details, but my latest update for you is that there are just some bits of software that work and some bits of audio software that don't. I get clicks and pops. What can I say? Every fix and solution and tweak I've tried just hasn't made any difference. However, Microsoft is sending me a new one that should turn up next week, and I get a chance to compare a couple side by side, and they're also working with me on a solution. So hopefully very soon, I know this is taking far too long already. It's taken a couple of months since I hit into these problems and started working through it, but Microsoft are working on it. They have a theory, and hopefully that will provide some kind of resolution. However, it's not consistent. So what would be really helpful is if you are a Surface Pro 4 user or a Surface Book user, if you could let me know how that's going. Yeah, what software are you running? How well has that gone? Have you experienced any problems? Because some people seem to and some people don't. So more information would be very, very useful, and anything that I can have to apply further pressure to Microsoft would just help enormously, because it's all just taking too long. And this Surface Pro 4 is an potentially awesome product, because when it works, it's fantastic, and it is much better than the Surface Pro 3 in the way that the processor works and the way that the clocking works and the throttling works. All of that has the potential to be fabulous, but if it just clicks and pops, then it's no good to anybody. So bear with me, give me a few more weeks, and I'll have this nailed down one way or another. In the meantime, tell me how it's going with you, what problems you've had, or if you've had no problems at all, tell me, and what software you're using and what sort of projects you're running. That would be great. Thank you very much, and I'll get back to you soon on that. So meanwhile, I'm ramping up my review schedule. Hooray! And I'm going to do a new thing called the 5-minute plugin review, which kind of does what it says on the tin. And I'll do that as many times and as often as I can. And I'll leave you with Marco Parisi playing Hendrix's Little Wings on the Seaboard Rise. Until next time, go make more tunes.
time.